I'm glad you could join me today. Today we're going to make rhubarb muffins. They're something that we make here where I live, one of the first treats of the year because we get rhubarb early, and it's something a little different. I got this recipe, if you can believe it or not, from my mother-in-law. Now I've divided it in half because she doesn't like to bake a lot, so she makes many at a time. And like most of us, we just like to make more frequently and have it a little bit fresher. So that's what I've done. I've reduced the recipe. So this is 3/4 of a cup of brown sugar, and in that I'm going to add 1/3 of a cup of oil. And then I'm going to mix these two items together until they're nice and creamy. Okay, now I've got the oil and the brown sugar mixed together. At this point I'm going to add my vanilla. It's 1 teaspoon of vanilla, 1 beaten egg, and 1/2 cup of sour milk. Now, if you don't have sour milk, you just add a little bit of lemon juice or vinegar, about 1/2 teaspoon for 1/2 cup. It's usually about 1 teaspoon per cup to make something sour. It's just easy to do, and in the old days I suppose lots of people had sour milk, but now we don't really like sour milk hanging around, so if you need it for a recipe you kind of have to make it. It's not hard to do. So this is quite a juicy recipe. It's almost like a cake batter when it's done, and you have to bake it quite a long time, unlike muffins that, you know, usually are 15 or 20 minutes to bake. These ones are about 40 minutes. Now if you use a frozen rhubarb, you need to thaw it out before you use it in this recipe and make sure it's drained of all its liquid, so it's fairly, you know, dry by comparison to the regular stuff you just pull out of the freezer and thaw out. Okay, so now we've got that done. I'm going to add my baking soda, which is 1/2 teaspoon, in with my cup and 1/4 of gluten-free flour with xanthan gum in it. Don't forget it has to have xanthan gum. And I'm just going to set this somewhere out of the way where it's not going to be in the road. And now I'm going to incorporate the flour into the wet mixture, stir it all around, and then put it in my muffin cups after I put in the rhubarb, of course. I'd looked for a long time for a rhubarb muffin recipe and couldn't really find anything. And my mother-in-law had this from a long time ago, and she told me that this would make a nice batch of muffins for me if I wanted to try it. So I did try it and thought they turned out fairly well. Except it made way too many. So I had to reduce it. I just cut it in half is what I did. But there we are. You want to get the lumps out the best, the best of your ability. Unlike real muffin batter, you wouldn't want to be beating it like this, but alright, now I'm going to add my rhubarb. This is just 3/4 of a cup finely chopped rhubarb. Now some people like raisins with the rhubarb. If you want to put that in there, you can as well. I'm just trying to keep it simple for you. You may not even like rhubarb, but it's early in the spring and it's relatively inexpensive. And some people even have it grown in their backyard, and it's just the first of the season treats that are available. There we go. Now I'm going to take this and put it into my muffin cups. Bring the little tray over here. I have my spoon. You probably aren't going to be able to see this. It's very wet, so I'm just going to scoop it down into the cup and try not to get it all over the place. You have to remember that I'm working backwards here and can't really see what I'm doing, so if I make a mess, try not to laugh at me. You could use a little measuring cup if you wanted to be quite accurate at this. As I've said before, I just plop them in there, and everybody in my house is just glad to have a fresh muffin, and they really don't care what they look like. Not so much. But most people are happy to have a nice baked item. And some people like to do fancy stuff. That's perfectly acceptable as well, but most of us are not fancy bakers. We're just ordinary bakers. And we like to have fresh, hot baked goods from home. Nothing's like the products your mum made when you were a kid. Nobody can make spaghetti like my mother, or nobody can make cookies like my mother. My poor mother-in-law, the woman that gave me this recipe, her husband never stopped going on about how his mother made the best white cookies he ever ate. Even though my mother-in-law made the exact same recipe, they didn't taste the same to him because his mother didn't make them. Alright, these go in a 350 oven for 40 minutes. You should test them after 35. Stick a little skewer in them. Make sure that it's dry. Oh, I forgot the sugar. I knew I forgot one important vital step. This is just some crystallized sugar. You can use plain white sugar. This is the kind you have in your container. I had this left over from a previous program we did, so I thought it's nice white sugar, and I'm going to sprinkle it on the top. Gives them a little crunch when they come out of the oven. See, I get talking away here and forget all about the important things that need to be done. But if you forgot the sugar, it's not a big deal. They just won't have a nice crunchy top. There we go. Alright, now they're going to go into the oven. These are our muffins. I want to thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.